Hi everyone, and welcome to the Black Kids Whitecoats YouTube channel. My name is Adama, and for those of you who may not know me, I'm a first-year resident in a program in Southern California. Excuse the room, I know it's messy, but I'm still trying to figure out how I want the layout of my room to be, and since starting intern year, hikey, the struggle is real. So please be patient with me as I transition on into this new chapter of my life where finally making money, but I'm still kind of working a lot. So that being said, the goal of this video, this is basically a part 2 to my last video on how I improved my step 1 score by 50 points within 2 weeks. So after I uploaded part 1, we got a lot of questions, and so I thought instead of answering everyone one by one, since a lot of the questions were kind of similar, it'd probably be best to just make a video. So the first question I got was, how exactly did I study? Now, disclaimer, what works for me may not work for you. I hope it does, but we're all different. We all learn in different ways. What I'm hoping to get by giving you an example of what I did is, if you're feeling completely lost and you don't know what to do, you can at least have a reference or a baseline, something to start at. So with that being said, I am an auditory learner. So for me, what was most important was listening to things over and over and over again. So I had Pathoma playing when I was driving, when I was home, and I would also make a point of writing everything down. Now, initially when I started step studying, I didn't, because obviously everyone is in a rush, go. And so you kind of think to yourself, ain't nobody got time to write everything down. But desperate time calls for desperate measures. And if you're not seeing the increases in score that you want, then you're gonna have to change it up. So for me, once I started writing things down and really thinking about what I was writing, that's when I started to see immense change. So from what I've heard from most people, they usually do 2 blocks a day and review, and then do a little bit of first aid, and then progress their way to 3 blocks a day. I've also heard people use a method where they write things in their book and then just read it the night before. Like from the blocks of the day, things that they got wrong, they write it down and just read it. Now for me, that didn't really work, because if I wrote things down and then I would just look at them, I would have no recollection of what question that was for, what was the relevance, unless I wrote down the exact question and then I could say, oh, now I know why that's the right answer. It didn't really serve me. And also for taking multiple blocks, I have a really good memory when it comes to seeing things. I remember them. So if I got one question wrong and the answer was A, if I see the question again, I'm going to pick A regardless if I know why it's A or not, because I know it's the answer, because I've seen it before. Does that make sense? Okay, so breakdown of what I did. I would wake up at 10 a.m. I know a lot of people are like, why didn't you wake up at 6? Blah, 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 blah. For me, I'm not a morning person, and when you're studying for STEP, you want to be in the optimal position. So for me, my brain doesn't start really working until like 10, so I woke up at 10. Now, you might be thinking, oh, Adama, on test day, don't you have to be there at 7:30? Most of the times, yes. You can find places, if you're just not about it and you're not a morning person, they do have an 11 a.m. start times at certain locations, and places as late as 2. So if you're really not about waking up early, you might want to look into that. For me, I knew it was okay, I could do it. So a week before my test, I started waking up earlier and earlier and earlier, so that by the time it was test day, I wasn't in a fog. You could do it while you're step studying, but for me, it didn't serve me, so I just didn't do it. But whatever floats your boat. So break down into what I would do. I would get up, get dressed, whatever. I would lock myself into my room. Then from the previous day, I would see what my weaknesses are, and I would be detailed. I know some people just look and they say, oh, I got that wrong. Okay, now I know the right answer. Move on. That wasn't enough for me. I had to literally sit there, look, and be like, okay, why did I get this wrong? Did I get it wrong because I didn't know it? Was it that I forgot? Was it that I made a careless mistake? Was it that I was rushing and I freaked out? It takes a lot of time when you're grading yourself that way and you're very critical. But at the end of the day, would you rather rush through and see maybe like a little bit of improvement? Or would you really rather take your time? Yes, it's going to take a lot of time, but really see that jump. Because if you know why you're getting things wrong, if it's that, oh, I'm making a careless mistake, then you say, okay, maybe I need to brush up. Or, man, I had the right answer, but I keep changing them. Then you know, okay, my first instinct is right. Maybe I shouldn't change poem questions if I keep changing them and getting them wrong. Does that kind of make sense? So, let's say, for instance, my weakness was cards. What I would do was I would wake up, go through cards on Pathoma, go through cards on first aid, and then take like a 20 question block just of cards. And same thing with being really critical. Why am I getting things wrong? Hypothetically, since you just reviewed it, your score should be higher. Then I would do the same thing for HEMONC if that was my weakness and it was that I didn't know it. Same exact thing. Then I would do a short block with both of them. So let's say of cards and HEMONC, like a 10 question block. Then after that, I would do a full 40 question block of everything just so I don't get rusty. It seems like a lot, but just to break it down, I would review one weakness that I have, take a block about it. Do another weakness that I had, take a block. Then do a mini block of both of them. I would do no more than 2 because I feel like 3, it gets kind of complex and it's a lot. Unless they're really small sections like derm, rheum, biostats. But if it's like big heavy hitters like cardio, renal, poem, GI, HEMONC, I would just do 2 max. Then at the end, I just do a full question block of everything. What that did was, because I attacked my weaknesses, hypothetically then at the end of the block, when I do that full 40 question block timed, my score should be higher. Does that kind of make sense? During that time too, I still worked out. I did lock myself in my room, but I did give myself time to walk outside, get some fresh air, work out, take dance classes, because at the end of the day, you're still a person, and step 1 is really isolating. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and the last thing you want to do is burn out right before a game day. So really, if that means giving yourself a day or half a day to just decompress, unwind, talk to people you love, hang out with people that you love, to just remind you that you're still a person, do what you have to do. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty, or don't compare yourself to anyone at the same time. So, major tips: know what type of learner you are. For me, that's audio, so I gotta listen. Some people, it might be visual. And another tip, like I said before, keep your resources to a bare minimum. UFAP works for most people. If UFAP doesn't work for you, why are you wasting your time? If Sketchy works for you, then use Sketchy. If Doctors in Training works for you, use Doctors in Training. Don't feel like you have to be stuck in UFAP in order to see results. Like I said, everybody's different. What may work for everybody may not work for you, and you will have to learn, be honest with yourself, and change it up. Like I said, you really don't have time. So whatever you need to do to get the score that you want. So I'm going to go into other questions. My phone is lagging. Okay. This person said, hi, I am a recent IMG graduate, so basically foreign outside of the U.S. medical school. I am preparing to take step 1 in August, and I just feel like I am retaining anything. I'm assuming this person meant I'm not retaining anything when answering questions. I'm just so depressed with my performance, and I was hoping you could give me advice, if any. Thank you for feeling comfortable to write to us. Hopefully I can help. Basically, I can say, everything that you're feeling is normal. Step 1 is very hard, and even looking back on it, between me and you, I'm like, how in the world did I get through it? But I did. And if I can get through it, you can get through it. So if you feel like you're not retaining anything, is it that you feel burnt out after a block and that you need to step away and then come back to review? Or is it that you're not retaining anything because you're just looking at it and then just saying, okay, I reviewed it, and then you just kind of move on? So you need to be honest with yourself. What do you think you could change? Is it that you need to start writing stuff down like I did and really being honest with yourself on why you're not learning? Or is it that, hey, you're kind of at the burnout point, so you should probably start, giving yourself little breaks to kind of decompress, maybe eat food that you like or go dance or work out, and then come back and review. So it's really hard also to answer because I don't know what resources you're using, but I'm just going to assume it's UFAP. And maybe you're relying too heavily on UWorld. I know a lot of people say UWorld, and yes, UWorld is great, but maybe you just need to go back to the FAP part and just do first aid and pathoma for a little bit. Really start studying, writing things, and then do the questions. Because some people learn by doing questions and getting them wrong, so trial and error. And then some people, like me, learn better when they review first and then do a question block. So it's sounding like you're just going towards the questions. Maybe you need to switch it up and start reviewing first and then try questions and see. And also write things down if you're not, and being honest with yourself as to why you're getting questions wrong. Let me know if that helps. This other person said, also an IMG, wants to match into the US. As I went deeper into studying for step 1, it was completely different with application. It was new knowledge and no rote memorization. Used so many resources. Doesn't trust a single resource. Did a lot of practice tests. Stuck in the 210s. Less than target score. Lost 3 months in 2018 because you had a heartbreak. Revising first aid. Okay. Wants to get 250 plus. Anxiety and fears. Okay. This person has used first aid, UWorld, Kaplan, Pathoma, Sketchy, Boards and Beyond. Okay. That's a lot. So I'm going to say back up. I'm going to say sorry that you're feeling so anxious. Everything that, like I said, and for the last person, everything that you're feeling is normal. Step 1 is brutal. It's very isolating. It's very normal to feel depressed. It's very normal to feel anxious because a lot is riding on this test, and not everyone understands that or understands the severity of this test. So everything that you're feeling is completely understandable. With that being said, I would suggest cutting down on your resources. I don't think you need UWorld and Kaplan. You should choose one. I personally don't like Kaplan, but if you like Kaplan, stick with it. But I think that's just way too much. And Sketchy, are you using Sketchy Micro? Are you using Sketchy Farm? If you're not used to Sketchy, so what is Sketchy? Basically, it's a way for you to remember microbiology or pharmacology with these diagrams and pictures and stories. And it'll say like, oh, the man with the 3 nights drinking salad, or I don't know. But for me, I never really got Sketchy, so I don't recommend starting Sketchy if you're not used to studying with Sketchy, because Sketchy can be a lot, especially for someone who's not familiar with it. So I would not recommend Sketchy, but if it works for you, continue. And Boards and Beyond. That's a lot. I would honestly just say first aid, UWorld, Pathoma and sketchy, if I could choose a top 4. Because let's be honest, you're not going to know everything. You will never know everything, and you have to be okay with that. And the more sources you have, the more you're going to discover, oh my gosh, I don't know this. Should I know this? And then you're going to freak out. Let me just say this. When you take step 1, you're never going to feel, or most people, everyone I've talked to, people have gotten from the 192s to the 260s. Most people don't feel confident when they leave. Most people are going to say, or that I've talked to say, what the F was that? That was not what I studied, blah, 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 blah. They're never really going to ask you, like, well, they might ask you some explicit questions where you're like, okay, I studied this. It's more teaching you how to think critically. So they're not going to give you an EKG that says a heart attack. They're going to say, oh, what's the mechanism behind what caused this EKG? Does that kind of make sense? So it's teaching you how to think critically. So rote memorization isn't going to help. You need to understand the concepts. And to understand the concepts, you're going to need to go back to the bare bones. And honestly, I mean, I don't want to sound like a savage, but some people are not meant to get 250s. And you just have to be okay with that. If you're doing the best that you can and you're working hard, you're going to reach your peak. And for some people, that's a 220. For some people, it's a 265. But you can't use that to gauge your worth. Or say, oh, because I'm not getting a 250, oh, I'm never going to get in anywhere. Yeah, it'll be a lot easier if you got it, but you also need to understand at what point are you okay with saying, okay, I'm okay with this score. For me, from the time I took my last practice test to my actual test, I think I improved 12 points. And my brother improved 14. So if you got a 210, theoretically speaking, if you're staying consistent, you could get like a 220 something or a 230. And I don't think that's bad. But I just think by continuing to postpone your test, you're not really doing yourself any favors. There has to be a point where you're just like, okay, I've literally studied everything that I can. There's not much more I can do with this. I have to keep going. And I have to just take the darn test. So all of that to say, I would cut down on your resources to the bare minimum. Doesn't have to be UFAP, but I think what you have right now is just a lot. Also, it's not rote memorization. So you have to be really vigilant about how you're studying and really see if you're understanding the concepts, because the concepts are the same universally around the world. It might be a different language, but the concepts of how the cardiac muscle works or the renal system is all the same. And that's what they're going to test you on. Yeah. And also being realistic. Some people, like I said, are meant to get 250s and above, and some people are not, and that's okay. There are people with 200s that match into great programs, and I've seen people with scores as high as 263 and they go unmatched. So it's not an end-all be-all. So be honest with yourself, be at peace, and feeling depressed and anxious is completely normal, but you can't let that hinder you from your progress. Does that make sense? Because residency, even though I've only been in it for 3 weeks, is going to be stressful. So you can't let the stress get you down. So do things that make you happy, and being honest with yourself and the people that you love. I hope that helps. Okay. I'm just going to do one more question. Hold on. I'm not texting. I'm trying to pull it up. Oh, gosh. So many. Okay. I'm just going to summarize it just so I'm not scrolling forever. This person basically said that they had used UFAP. They felt like they had exhausted it, and because they weren't happy with their score, they decided to take time off. And now that they're jumping back into it, they want to know how they can have a healthier perspective so that they do better. So that's the summary of what they said. This person, if you're watching this, please let me know if I hit this or if I'm answering this correctly. So I think you were smart to take time off, because sometimes that's just what you need to do. And being honest with yourself and how much you can take is a sign that you're going to be a great physician. With that being said, if you're doing UFAP and it's not working for you, or you feel like you're not seeing progress, you might have to switch it up, whether that's your sources or how you study. So see what you're getting wrong and why you're getting it wrong, and then try and improve on that. If it's that you don't know something, like I said previously, review it again. Because when me and my brother were looking, was it 3 years ago? 2 years ago that we took STEP? We were looking at the difference between like a 200 and a 228, and it was literally 5 questions. And I promise you, if you go through your question banks or your practice steps, you will see 5 questions where you're like, why the heck did I get this wrong? I should have got this right. So being patient, even though it sounds counterintuitive, slowing down to think about why you're choosing what you're choosing. And if you get it wrong, like I said, being really critical about why you're getting things wrong. Other resources that I found that people like Doctors in Training. I personally really like Doctors in Training, so I used it to supplement my UFAP. I didn't like Sketchy, so I didn't use Sketchy. Some people love Sketchy, so they use Sketchy. Some people really like Kaplan. I don't like Kaplan. So trying out different things and not putting so much pressure on yourself. I'm telling you, there's so many people studying for step 1 that are feeling the exact same thing you are. So knowing that everything that you're feeling is okay, and that being okay with saying, you know what, this is hard, this sucks, and I'm not happy, and I'm not seeing the scores that I want, but it's okay, I'm going to get through it. Because you are going to get through it, and you are going to do it. Because trust me, I literally was crying every day. I hated it. It sucked. And my brother, he matched into ortho. You know, if you're going to match into a top program in ortho, you got to have the scores. So seeing him, I mean, I had the extra complexity, I guess, of seeing my brother get these scores that people dream of and feeling so inadequate. He never made me feel inadequate, but I felt depressed. I felt sad. But then I told myself, well, you can either be sad and keep doing the same thing and keep getting the same score and just go through the motions, or you can wake up and say, you know what, this sucks. I'm happy for my brother, but I'm not happy with my score. What I'm doing is not working. I need to scrap it and just reinvent it. And that's what I did. I was like, obviously, studying with my friends is not helping. I have to lock myself in a room. Obviously, listening to things is not enough. I gotta start writing things down. Obviously, doing these question banks and saying I got this wrong didn't work. I gotta be more strenuous. I gotta be more tedious. Did it take me a lot more time? Yeah. Did it suck? Yeah. Did I cry? Yeah. Did I feel lonely and depressed? Yeah. And at first I was like, what am I doing this for? It's not even gonna help. But within that 2 weeks, my score kept going up and up and up. And I was taking practice tests, after practice tests. And I kept seeing improvements. So all that to say, when you're approaching this, come at it with a different mindset. It's going to be hard. Your body is trained to be anxious and feel sad because of the experiences that you've had before. So you have to rewire yourself and come from a place of love. Say, you know, I'm working as hard as I can. I'm proud of myself for making it this far, because some people don't even make it this far. Obviously, I'm meant to be here. Obviously, I'm meant to do this test, and I will do this test. To be real with yourself. Tell yourself, yeah, it's going to suck. But the easier or the faster you accept that it's going to suck, the easier it is for you to really get down in the trenches and figure out what you need to do to get the score that you want. But I 100% believe that you can see progress as long as you're easy with yourself, being realistic with your expectations, and taking little moments to do things that you love so that you are re-energized, so that you don't burn out. Because it's so easy to burn out with how people study. It's so easy. So, in summary, all I want everyone to know is you can do this. It's not easy. It's not... If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. If it was easy, everyone would get through it. But the fact that you're studying for this proves that you are capable and you are going to get it done. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it when you sit for that exam. Oh, one more tip. Plan something fun after, so you have something to look forward to. For me, that was Cuba. So when I was down in the trenches and I was like, man, this sucks, I was thinking, it's not going to suck when I'm in Cuba, living my best life. And it worked out. So if you have any other specific questions, if you feel like you want me to go more in detail, if you want to know, hey, this is what I'm doing, do you see anything that I may need to fix or things I can tweak, shoot us an email, leave a comment down below, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Keep on the lookout because my next video is going to be tips on step 2. So good luck. You got this. I'm wishing you all the best. Bye.